Appendix B, Part 1 of Through the Brazilian Wilderness. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sam Elniff. Through the Brazilian Wilderness by Theodore Roosevelt, Appendix B, The Outfit for Traveling in the South American Wilderness, Part 1. South America includes so many kinds of country that it is impossible to devise a scheme of equipment which shall suit all. A hunting trip in the Pantanals in the swamp country of the upper Paraguay offers a simple problem. An exploring trip through an unknown tropical forest region, even if the work is chiefly done by the river, offers a very difficult problem. All that I can pretend to do is to give a few hints as the results of our own experience. For bedding, there should be a hammock, mosquito net, and light blanket. These can be obtained in Brazil. For a tent, a light fly is ample. Ours were brought with us from New York. In exploring, only the open fly should be taken, but on trips where weight of luggage is no objection, there can be walls to the tent and even a canvas floor cloth. Camp chairs and a camp table should be brought. Any good outfitter in the United States will supply them, and not thrown away until it becomes imperative to cut everything down. On a river trip, first-class pulleys and ropes, preferably steel and at any rate very strong, should be taken. Unless the difficulties of transportation are insuperable, canvas and cement canoes, such as can be obtained from various firms in Canada and the United States, should by all means be taken. They are incomparably superior to the dugouts. But on different rivers, wholly different canoes of wholly different sizes will be needed. On some, steam or electric launches may be used. It is not possible to lay down a general rule. As regards arms, a good plain 12-bore shotgun with a 30-30 rifle barrel underneath the others is the best weapon to have constantly in one's hands in the South American forests, where big game is rare and yet may at any time come in one's path. When specially hunting the jaguar, marsh deer, taipa, or big peccary, an ordinary light repeating rifle, the 30-30, 30-40, or 256, is preferable. No heavy rifle is necessary for South America. Tin boxes, or trunks, are the best in which to carry one's spare things. A good medicine chest is indispensable. Nowadays, doctors know so much of tropical diseases that there is no difficulty in fitting one out. It is better not to make the trip at all than to fail to take an ample supply of quinine pills. Cholera pills and cathartic pills come next in importance. In liquid shape, there should be a serum to inject for the stoppage of amoebic dysentery and anti-snake venom serum. Fly dope should be taken in quantities. For clothing, Kermit and I used what was left over from our African trip. Sun helmets are the best in the open. Slouch hats are infinitely preferable in the woods. There should be hobnailed shoes, the nails many and small, not few and large, and also moccasins or rubber-soled shoes, and light flexible leggings. Tastes differ in socks. I like mine of thick wool. A khaki-colored shirt should be worn, or, as a better substitute, a khaki jacket with many pockets. Very light underclothes are good. If one's knees and legs are uncomfortably tender, knickerbockers with long stockings and leggings should be worn. Ordinary trousers tend to bind the knee. Better still, if one's legs will stand the exposure, are shorts, not coming down to the knee. A kilt would probably be best of all. Kermit wore shorts in the Brazilian forest, and he had already worn them in Africa, in Mexico, and in the New Brunswick woods. Some of the best modern hunters always wear shorts, as for example, that first-class sportsman, the Duke of Alva. Mr. Fiala, after the experience of his trip down to the Papagayo, the Juruena, and the Tapajos, gives his judgment about equipment and provisions as follows. The history of South American exploration has been full of the losses of canoes and cargoes and lives. The native canoe, made from the single trunk of a forest giant, is the craft that has been used. It is durable, and if lost, can be readily replaced from the forest by good men with axes and adzes. But, because of its great weight and low freeboard, it is unsuitable as a freight carrier, and by reason of the limitations of its construction, is not of the correct form to successfully run the rapid and bad waters of many of the South American rivers. The North American Indian has undoubtedly developed a vastly superior craft in the birch bark canoe, and with it will run rapids that a South American Indian, with his log canoe, would not think of attempting, though, as a general thing, the South American Indian is a wonderful waterman, the equal, and in some ways the superior, of his northern contemporary. At the many carries or portages that the light birch bark canoe, or its modern representative, the canvas-covered canoe, can be picked up bodily and carried by from 2 to 4 men for several miles, if necessary, while the log canoe has to be hauled by ropes and back-breaking labor over rollers that have first to be cut from trees in the forest, or at great risk led along the edge of the rapids with ropes and hooks and poles, the men often up to their shoulders in the rushing waters, guiding the craft to a place of safety. The native canoe is so long and heavy that it is difficult to navigate without some bumps on the rocks. In fact, it is usually dragged over the rocks in the shallow water near the shore in preference to taking the risk of a plunge through the rushing volume of deeper water, for reasons stated above. The North American canoe can be turned with greater facility in critical moments in bad water. Many a time I heard my steersman exclaim with delight as we took a difficult passage between 2 rocks with our loaded Canadian canoe. In making the same passage, the dugout would go sideways towards the rapid, until by supreme effort by her 3 powerful paddlers and steersmen would right her just in time. The native canoe would ship great quantities of water in the places the Canadian canoe came through without taking any water on board. We did bump a few rocks under the water, but the canoe was so elastic that no damage was done. Our 19-foot canvas-covered freight canoe, a type especially built for the purpose on deep, full lines, with high freeboard, weighed about 160 pounds, and would carry a ton of cargo with ease, and also take it safely where the same cargo distributed among 2 or 3 native 30 or 35-foot canoes would be lost. The native canoes weigh from about 900 to 2,500 pounds and more. In view of the above facts, the explorer-traveler is advised to take with him the North American canoe if he intends serious work. 2 canoes would be a good arrangement for from 5 to 7 men, with at least 1 steersman and 2 paddlers to each canoe. The canoes can be purchased in 2 sizes and nested for transportation, an arrangement which would save considerable expense in freight bills. At least 6 paddles should be packed with each boat, in length 4 1/2, 4 3/4, and 5 feet. Other paddles from 6 1/2 feet to 8 1/2 feet should be provided for steering oars. The native paddler, after he has used the light Canadian paddle, prefers it to the best native make. My own paddlers lost or broke all of their own paddles so as to get the North American ones, which they marked with their initials and used most carefully. To each canoe, it would be well to have 2 copper air tanks, 1 fore, 1 aft, a handhole in each, with a tight water screw cover on hatch. In these tanks could be kept a small supply of matches, the chronometer or watch which is used for position, and the scientific records and diary. Of course, the fact should be kept in mind that these are air tanks, not to be used so as to appreciably diminish their buoyancy. Each canoe should also carry a small repair kit attached to one of the thwarts, containing cement, a piece of canvas same as cover of canoe, copper tacks, rivets, and some galvanized nails, a good hatchet and hammer, a small can of canoe paint, spar varnish, and copper paint for worn places would be a protection against termites and torrential downpours. In concluding the subject of canoes, I can state that the traveler in South America will find no difficulty in disposing of his craft at the end of his trip. Motors. We had with us a 3 1/2 horsepower motor, which could be attached to stern or gunwale of canoe or boat. It was made by the Evinrude Motor Company, who had a magneto placed in the flywheel of the engine, so that we never had to resort to the battery to run the motor. Though the motor was left out in the rain and sun, often without a cover, by careless native help, it never failed us. We found it particularly valuable in going against the strong current of the Sepotubo River, where several all-night trips were made upstream, the motor attached to a heavy boat. For exploration upstream it would be valuable, particularly as it is easily portable, weighing for the 2 horsepower motor 50 pounds, for 3 1/2 horsepower 100 pounds. If a carburetor could be attached so that kerosene could be used, it would add to its value many times, for kerosene can be purchased almost anywhere in South America. Tents. There is nothing better for material than the light waterproof sea island cotton of American manufacture, made under the trade name of waterproof silk. It keeps out the heaviest rain and is very light. Canvas becomes water-soaked, and cravenetted material lets the water through. A waterproof canvas floor is a luxury, and though it adds to the weight, it may with advantage be taken on ordinary trips. The tent should be 8 by 8 or 8 by 9 feet, large enough to swing a comfortable hammock. A waterproof canvas bag, a loose-fitting envelope for the tent should be provided. Native help is, as a rule, careless, and the bag would save wear and tear. Hammocks. The hammock is a South American bed, and the traveler will find it exceedingly comfortable. After leaving the larger cities and settlements, a bed is a rare object. All the houses are provided with extra hammock hooks. The traveler will be entertained hospitably, and after dinner will be given 2 hooks upon which to hang his hammock, for he will be expected to have his hammock, and, in insect time, his net, if he has nothing else. As a rule, a native hammock and net can be procured in the field, but it is best to take a comfortable one along, arranged with a fine meshed net. In regard to the folding cot, it is heavy, and its numerous legs form a sort of highway system over which all sorts of insects can crawl up to the sleeper. The ants are special pests, and some of them can bite with enthusiastic vigor of beasts many times their size. The canvas floor in the tent obviates to a degree the insect annoyance. The headwaters of the rivers are usually reached by pack trains of mules and oxen. The primitive ox cart also comes in where the trail is not too bad. 160 to 180 pounds is a good load for pack animals, and none of the cases should weigh more than 50 or 60 pounds. Each case should be marked with its contents and gross and net weight in kilos. For personal baggage, the light fiber sample case used by traveling men in the United States does admirably. The regulation fiber case, with its metal binding, sold for the purpose, is too heavy and has the bad feature of swelling up under the influence of rain and dampness, often necessitating the use of an axe or heavy hammer to remove cover. The ordinary fiber trunk is good for rail and steamer travel, but it is absolutely unpractical for muleback or canoe. The fiber sample case could be developed into a container particularly fitted for exploration. The fiber should be soaked in hot paraffin and then hot calendared or hot pressed. This case could then be covered with waterproof canvas with throat opening like a duffel bag. The waterproof duffel bags usually sold are too tight in texture and wear through. A heavier grade should be used. The small duffel bag is very convenient for hammock and clothing, but generally the thing wanted will be at the bottom of the bag. We took with us a number of small cotton bags. As cotton is very absorbent, I had them paraffined. Each bag was tagged, and all were placed in a large duffel bag. The light fiber case described above, made just the right size for mule pack, divided by partitions, and covered with a duffel bag, would prove a great convenience. The light steel boxes made in England for travelers in India and Africa would prove of value in South American exploration. They have the advantage of being insect and waterproof, and the disadvantage of being expensive. It would be well if the traveler measured each case for personal equipment and computed the limit of weight that it would carry and still float. By careful distribution of light and heavy articles in the different containers, he could be sure of his belongings floating if accidentally thrown into the water. It is not always possible to get comfortable native saddles. They are all constructed on heavy lines with thick padding which becomes water-soaked in the rainy season. A United States military saddle with a Whitman or McClellan tree would be a positive luxury. Neither of them is padded, so would be the correct thing for all kinds of weather. The regulation Army saddle blanket is also advised as a protection for the mule's back. The muleteer should wash the saddle blanket often. For a long mule-back trip through a game country, it would be well to have a carbine boot on the saddle, United States Army, and saddlebags with canteen and cup. In a large pack train, much time and labor are lost every morning collecting the mules which strayed while grazing. It would pay in the long run to feed a little corn at a certain hour every morning in camp, always ringing a bell or blowing a horn at the time. The mules would get accustomed to receiving the feed and would come to camp for it at the signal. All the rope that came to my attention in South America was 3-strand hemp, a hard material, good for standing rigging, but not good for tackle or for use aboard canoes. A 4-ply bolt rope of best manila, made in New Bedford, Massachusetts, should be taken. It is the finest and most pliable line in the world, as any old whaler will tell you. Get a sailor from the old school to relay the coils before you go into the field, so that the rope will be ready for use. 5/8 to 7/8 inch diameter is large enough. A few balls of marline come in conveniently, as also does heavy linen fish line. A small-sized duffel bag should be provided for each of the men as a container for hammock and net, spare clothing, and a mess kit. A small waterproof pouch or bag should be furnished also for matches, tobacco, etc. The men should be limited to 1 duffel bag each. These bags should be numbered consecutively. In fact, every piece in the entire equipment should be thus numbered, and a list kept in detail in a book. The explorer should personally see that each of his men has a hammock, net, and poncho, for the native, if left unsupervised, will go into the field with only the clothing he has on. Food. Though South America is rich in food and food possibilities, she has not solved the problem of living economically on her frontiers. The prices asked for food in the rubber districts we passed through were amazing. 5 mil reis, $1.50, was cheap for chicken, and eggs at 500 reis, 15 cents apiece, were a rarity. Sugar was bought at the rate of 1 to 2 milreis a kilo, in a country where sugar cane grows luxuriantly. The main dependence is the mandioc, or farina, as it is called. It is the bread of the country, and is served at every meal. The native puts it on his meat and in his soup, and mixes it with his rice and beans. When he has nothing else, he eats the farina, as it is called, by the handful. It is seldom cooked. The small mandioc tubers, when boiled, are very good and are used instead of potatoes. Native beans are nutritious and form one of the chief foods. In the field, the native cook wastes much time. Generally provided with an inadequate cooking equipment, Hours are spent cooking beans after the day's work, and then, of course, they are often only partially cooked. A kettle or aluminum Dutch oven should be taken along, large enough to cook enough beans for both breakfast and dinner. The beans should be cooked all night, a fire kept burning for the purpose. It would only be necessary then to warm the beans for breakfast and dinner, the two South American meals. For meat, the rubber hunter and explorer depends upon his rifle and fishhook. The rivers are full of fish which can be readily caught, and in Brazil, the tapi, capybara, paca, agouti, 2 or 3 varieties of deer, and 2 varieties of wild pig can occasionally be shot. Most of the monkeys are used for food. Turtles and turtle eggs can be had in season, and a great variety of birds, some of them delicious in flavor and heavy in meat. In the hot, moist climate, fresh meat will not keep, and even salted meat has been known to spoil. For use on the Roosevelt expedition, I arranged a ration for 5 men for 1 day, packed in a tin box. The party which went down the Duvida made each ration do for 6 men for a day and a half, and in addition gave over half the bread or hardtack to the camaradas. By placing the day's allowance of bread in the same box, it was lightened sufficiently to float if dropped into water. There were 7 rations in the arrangement of food in these boxes, and they were numbered from 1 to 7, so that each different box could be used every day of the week. In addition to the food, each box contained a cake of soap, a piece of cheesecloth, 2 boxes of matches, and a box of table salt. These tin boxes were lacquered to protect from rust and enclosed in wooden cases for transportation. A number in large type was printed on each. Number 1 was cased separately. Numbers 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7 were cased together. For canoe travel, the idea was to take these wooden cases off. I did not have an opportunity personally to experience the management of these food cases. We had sent them all ahead by pack train for the explorers of the Duvida River. The exploration of the Papagayo was decided upon during the march over the plateau of Mato Grosso, and was accomplished with dependence upon native food only. Daily ration for 5 men. 16 of rice on Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday. 13 of oatmeal on Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. 100 of bread on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 18 of tea biscuits on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. 21 of ginger snaps on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. 11 of dehydrated potatoes on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. 5 of dehydrated onions on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. 8 of Erbswurst on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. 6 of evaporated soups on Sunday, Tuesday, and Saturday. 25 of baked beans on Thursday and Saturday. 17 of condensed milk on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 44 of bacon on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 56 of roast beef on Monday. 56 of braised beef on Tuesday and Saturday. 70 of corned beef on Wednesday. 78 of ox tongue on Thursday. 72 of curry and chicken on Friday. 61 of boned chicken on Sunday. Fruits. 5 of evaporated berries on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. 20 of figs on Sunday and Tuesday. 16 of dates on Friday. 32 of sugar on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 10 of coffee on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 5 of tea on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 4 of salt on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 16 of sweet chocolate on Wednesday. Each box also contained 1 yard of muslin for each day of the week, 2 boxes of matches for every day of the week, and 1 cake of soap for every day of the week. Above weights of food are net in avoirdupois ounces. Each complete ration with its tin container weighed nearly 27 pounds. The 5 pounds over net weight of daily ration was taken up in tin necessary for protection of food. The weight of component parts of daily ration had to be governed to some extent by the size of the commercial package in which the food could be purchased on short notice. Austin, Nichols and Company of New York supplied the food stores for my polar expedition, worked day and night to complete the packing of the rations on time. The food cases described above were used on Colonel Roosevelt's descent of the Rio da Duvida, and also used by the party who journeyed down from the Gy Parana and Madeira rivers. Leo Miller, the naturalist, who was a member of the last-named party, arrived in Manaus, Brazil, while I was there, and in answer to my question, told me that the food served admirably and was good, but that the native cooks had a habit of opening a number of cases at a time to satisfy their personal desire for special delicacies. Bacon was the article most sought for. Speaking critically, for a strenuous piece of work like the exploration of the Duvida, the food was somewhat bulky. A ration arrangement, such as I used on my sled trips north, would have contained more nutritious elements in a smaller space. We could have done without many of the luxuries, but the exploration of the Duvida had not been contemplated and had no place in the itinerary mapped out in New York. The change of plan and the decision to explore the Duvida River came out in Rio Janeiro, long after our rations had been made and shipped. Mate, the tea of Brazil and Paraguay, used in most of the states of South America, should not be forgotten. It is a valuable beverage. With it, a native can do a wonderful amount of work on little food. Upon the tired traveler, it has a very refreshing effect. Dr. Peckolt, celebrated chemist of Rio de Janeiro, has compared the analysis of mate with those of green tea, black tea, and coffee, and obtained the following result. In 1,000 parts of green tea, 7.90 parts are natural oil, 22.20 parts are chlorophyll, 22.20 are resin, 178.09 are tannin. Alkaloids. 4.50 parts are metana, 464.00 are extractive substances, 175.80 parts are cellulose and fibers, 85.60 parts are ashes. In 1,000 parts of black tea, 0.06 parts are natural oil, 18.14 parts are chlorophyll, 34.40 parts are resin, 128.80 parts are tannin. Alkaloids. 4.3 parts are metana, 390.00 parts are extractive substances, 283.20 parts are cellulose and fibers, and 25.61 parts are ashes. In 1,000 parts of coffee, 0.41 parts are natural oil, 13.66 parts are chlorophyll, 13.66 parts are resin, 16.39 parts are tannin. Alkaloids, 2.66 parts are metana, 270.67 parts are extractive substances, 178.83 parts are cellulose and fibers, and 25.61 parts are ashes. In 1,000 parts of mate, 0.01 parts are natural oil, 62.00 parts are chlorophyll, 20.69 parts are resin, 12.28 parts are tannin. Alkaloids, 2.5 parts are metana, 238.83 parts are extractive substances, 180.00 parts are cellulose and fibers, and 38.11 parts are ashes. Manner of preparation. The mate tea is prepared in the same manner as the Indian tea, that is to say, by pouring upon it boiling water during 10 to 15 minutes before using. To obtain a good infusion, 5 spoonfuls of mate are sufficient for a liter of water. End of Appendix B, Part 1.